My name's Keith Costas. I work at Major League Baseball Network. When I first started, I worked for a long time in the research department, just kind of helping the announcers and our graphics department and our producers make sure everybody knows what they're talking about, sort of an editorial producer type position. And the last few years, I've been doing more game production stuff as a tape producer on our remote games and starting to produce some games here and there as well. Well, I grew up around sports and sports broadcasting a lot with my dad, and I was really lucky when I was a young kid. I got to travel around and kind of observe the business right from his side. And he always said beats having a real job, which I thought was just kind of a little one-liner. And the older I got and the more I got into it and started doing it as a career myself, I realized he was right. It does beat having a real job, so to speak. It's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, you're talking about sports and you're doing stuff that a lot of people would love to be doing. So in the tape room, what I do is the truck is split into two sides, basically. You get the producer and the director and a few other key people on one side of the truck. And then over where I work in the tape room is where basically anything that you see that's not live on the air, that's coming from the tape room. So live play, the director's cutting around, he's showing you what's going on with the game. That's all happening live. But if they go to a replay, if there's any kind of pre-produced package or full screen graphics and some of the bigger elements come back, we keep them back in the tape room. So we're in charge of organizing and building all that stuff. So that could be anything from graphics to help us in our opening segment, or plays that have happened in previous games, flashbacks to, maybe this hitter has a history with this pitcher, so let's make sure we have the video of a big home run he hit, whatever the case may be. And then the nuts and bolts of the job, obviously, is covering the game. And that's what makes it fun, is sports are so unpredictable. You can't plan for what you don't know yet. So you got to react to the game and document what's been happening in front of you. So that might mean when the next player comes up, maybe you have a package cut for what he's done so far that day, a little highlight or some big play he was involved in earlier. So you certainly over prepare, knowing that most of what you go in bringing might not get used. The game might not dictate it, but you want to make sure that you're covered for all the different scenarios that might come up. I think the hardest thing is probably working long hours, working nights, having an unpredictable schedule. Summer, obviously, in the baseball world is a super busy time, which is also a benefit, but can be a grind as well. It's hard to stay on top of all 30 teams all season, but you try to lock in as best you can with the people that are most in the know with those teams leading up to it. So whether it's reading articles and reading publicly available stuff, or maybe, making connections throughout my career and getting them on the phone and say, hey, can I pick your brain for 5 or 10 minutes and catch me up on what you've seen for the last couple of weeks, what's going on with the teams. And then obviously just not that much different than being a fan, to be honest with you, just watching the games and just following the game day to day, the league, the teams, the players, everything on a day-to-day basis, and just staying on top of it as best you can. It's just fun to go to work and have the actual content of what you're doing and the nuts and bolts of what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. It's something that I like anyways. If I wasn't doing this job and I had a regular 9 to 5, I would be paying attention to baseball when I got home at night, and I'd be watching baseball on the weekends. So don't be afraid to talk to people and ask them what they do. I would just say networking and making those connections and not being afraid to ask questions and being a sponge in every situation you're in. There's a lot of different jobs, and most of the people that I work with have made pivots within the industry. They might have started doing one thing and then they realized they liked one thing better. So don't be afraid to try things. When you do have to put in those long hours and you're working maybe at night or you're working on the weekend, it's something that you enjoy. It's still a job, and certainly there's times where it becomes a grind, but at the end of the day, it's always fun to talk baseball.